Hello, everyone. Um, I think we're ready to get started here. Hello, everyone. So just wanted to make sure that you can hear me okay. I can see a lot of people already have joined our YouTube channel. So for those that are already on YouTube, please, if you can't hear me, or if you can't hear our guest speaker, or if you have any technical issues, please let us know. Otherwise, we'll get started. Okay, great. I see that everybody can hear me. Okay, so let's get started then. So hello, everyone, and welcome to the SME's A Day in the Life webinar series brought to you by Engineers for Engineers. I'm Rani Haroun, and your host for today's webinar. First, I hope you're all staying safe wherever you are. Last year, we hosted 3 webinars with a mechanical engineer from Boeing, Aerojet, and Tesla. Because of the tremendous success and popularity of those events, we're going to host at least another 3 webinars this year. So please keep an eye on the SME's website for today's webinar recording and the schedule of the upcoming webinars. So for those that are attending our event for the first time, what is the purpose of this webinar, and what is the Day in the Life webinar series all about? I'm sure at some point you probably wondered what a day in the life of a mechanical engineer working at top companies like Lockheed Martin, SpaceX, Raytheon, and many others would be like. So this webinar series, it's exactly what that's going to address. Now you have essentially your chance to find out through this interactive webinar series what a day in the life of a mechanical engineer is. Let me. So here's how the webinar will work. In a minute or so, I will introduce our special guest speaker of today. But first, let me tell you how this webinar will work. Starting with some housekeeping, all webinar participants are signed in listen mode only. So please type in any questions you might have in the dialog box on the webinar platform anytime during the webinar. All questions will be answered after the introduction of our guest speaker. In fact, the Q&A session will be an integral part of this webinar. As far as the type of questions you can ask, you may ask any kind of question, whether it's related to the mechanical engineering field, the company, the industry, career-related questions, or any questions related to the speaker's job or position. So for those who are not familiar with how YouTube Live works, so just very quick, this is where you can type in your questions. Simply type them into the chat box in your YouTube control panel, as shown here. we'll probably get a lot of questions. So we'll do our best to answer as many as we can during this webinar. But please understand that, again, depending on the questions, we may not be able to address all of them. So let's get started and introduce you to our guest speaker. Please meet Jose Rodriguez, a staff mechanical engineer at Lockheed Martin. Jose, you have the stage now. I'll let you at this point share your story. So let me just, I think you're on mute now. So let me just get you unmuted, and if you can tell us your story now, Jose, that would be great.
Okay. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you. Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, so my name is Jose Rodriguez. I've been working with Lockheed Martin as a aeronautical mechanical engineer for almost 5 years now. Prior to that, I've worked on some other aerospace companies, Gulfstream Aerospace. I did some time working for Naval Air Systems Command as a civil servant engineer. Prior to that, I worked at General Electric, General Atomics on Predator UAVs. So I've had a pretty lengthy career. I actually started my career, when I graduated high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do or how I was going to pay for college and all that stuff. So my decision track there was to join the U.S. Navy. I ended up working on a lot of different aircraft, helicopters, fighter jets, weapon systems, and that kind of really that's what piqued my interest to get into engineering. I really enjoyed being a mechanic, a technician, but as time went on, I really developed an affinity for the more complicated side of things and figuring out systems and designing and things like that. So that's when I did my engineering education and got into the industry, and it's been pretty interesting. I can't complain. I've gotten to work on business jets, commercial jets, turbine engines for almost every application from 30 pounds of thrust to 100,000 pounds of thrust. So very grateful for what this industry and what this profession has allowed me to do, and I hope I can keep doing it for a lot longer. I hope that covers most of it.
Thank you, Jose, for this for the great introduction. I see already we're getting a lot of questions, and it looks like everybody can hear you fine, which is good. So before we start taking questions from our YouTube channel here, let me ask you, Jose, and I think that's probably what everybody actually wants to know first, is what is a typical day like for you as a mechanical engineer working at Lockheed Martin? What does it look like?
Okay. Yeah, so my day is filled with it varies, obviously. Not every single day is the same, or else that'd get pretty boring, right? But a day can consist of it can be very technical intense, where I'm having to do engine performance analysis, help design an inlet, or do those kind of trade studies, and working with other disciplines within a group, whether we're designing a missile or a UAV or an airplane or whatever. And then there's the other side of that where as you move up in time and become more senior, you become probably a technical lead or an IPT lead. So you have to, do those kind of duties where it involves scheduling meetings and coordinating, different types of meetings, technical and management type meetings, keeping track of tasks, making sure my teammates and guys working for me are staying busy and doing good things. So it really does vary. And another facet of the day to day, on top of just your technical responsibilities, your administrative responsibilities, there's also just dealing with customers, whether they be internal or external. So sometimes we'll get, a DoD customer will call and want to talk about what a certain project's, how it's going, or certain details and things like that. So you definitely want to keep your customers happy because that's who pays your bills, right? So, um, in short, it's a balance of doing the fun technical stuff you learn in school, analysis, design, that kind of work, and on top of that you juggle meetings, whether they be coordination meetings, or just technical discussion, or planning, and just anything else that pops up. So one day, every day is not exactly the same. There's a lot of variation. It really depends on the tempo of the type of product you're developing. If it's a very large aircraft with a lot of moving parts, there's going to be a lot of people, and that's going to move in a lot of different ways than if you're working on a very small program like a UAV or something like that, where it's a smaller, tighter knit team, and you can move in a very agile way. So the day to day can vary quite a bit. I hope I wasn't too broad there, and that gives you an idea.
No, that was perfect. Thank you, Jose. So we're going to start now taking questions from the audience. And like I said, there are a lot of people who are asking some really good questions.
Okay.
So please keep them coming. So the first one that I want to start here with is from Adam. He's asking, so what was your time in the Navy like, and what opportunities did that present?
Okay. My time in the Navy was pretty fun. It was an eye-opening experience. As an 18-year-old kid, getting to work on $1 million fighter jets and crazy weapon systems that I'd only seen on movies and TV was definitely eye-opening. Again, like I said, it kind of invigorated my path to my career of what I wanted to do. Um, it was just fun. I got to travel, see the world, meet all kinds of different people from different places. Definitely a positive experience. As far as professional opportunities, it really does open the door. It's a network like anything else, right? So you meet a lot of people in the aerospace industry, in the defense industry, and that certainly helps when you want to look for work, or get into a certain role or whatnot. And on top of that, it helped pay for college. It paid for my bachelor's and my master's. So I'm definitely very grateful for that. Great opportunity that I wouldn't have had otherwise if I just went another route.
So I guess follow-up question from John. So how do you become an aircraft tech within the Navy?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
How did you become an aircraft tech within the Navy?
Okay. So when you join the military, whether it's Army, Navy, Air Force, any other branch, they assign you a role of some type. You don't just go in and do nothing and figure it out later. Typically, they assign you some kind of job, right? And so most of the times, if you have good test scores and you're well qualified, you can usually pick your job if there's enough demand. I was always very mechanically inclined. I liked working on cars, taking stuff apart. So my inclination was to become a mechanic. I didn't know if that was on tanks or airplanes or boats or whatever. And they presented me with the opportunity of working on airplanes, and I just thought that just at that time and point just sounded amazing. So that's the path I went down, and it worked out pretty good.
Okay, great. Um, Another question here from Seiji. Has having been helped you through your early education and career?
Sorry, can you repeat that? I think the line's breaking up a little.
Oh, sorry. Has having been a technician helped you through your early education and your career?
Okay. Um, yeah, that's a great question. I feel that it has. It definitely gives you some insight. You often hear stories about like a young engineer fresh out of school who's never worked on anything, or put their hands on anything, and they struggle to communicate with technicians because there's a big age and experience gap. So it definitely, I would recommend that for anybody. If you have the opportunity to do a hands-on job. So for example, me, I love turbine engines. If you want to be a turbine engine engineer of some sort, and you have the opportunity to be somewhere where they're assembled or overhauled or components are built, and you can really see the hands-on type of things and figure out how the parts come together and what the problems are. I mean, it really changes your perspective because as engineers, when we do stuff on CAD or we design things, it just kind of clicks together in a very convenient way. And once it gets on the actual installation on the airplane or whatever application it goes on, the integration piece, which you get better at throughout your career, is huge. Things don't always come together the right way because you've got one person designing, the nacelle, and another person designing the thrust reverser, and another person designing the engine case, and it just, it doesn't always just click together like it does on CATIA or CAD or anything. So when you have a hands-on mentality and you understand how stuff comes together, and if you have the opportunity to understand what technicians have to do, it does give you a little bit of an edge in understanding how systems come together and how to integrate things.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jose. So I'm seeing a lot of questions now related to Lockheed Martin. So a lot of people are wondering essentially how your past experience in the
Okay.
Navy helped you essentially get land your job at Lockheed Martin. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that helped you?
Sure. I'm not sure if there was a direct correlation. Again, I've only been with Lockheed about 5 years out of if you count my time as a technician, almost 20-year career. So, um, you know, Lockheed does obviously hire veterans and military personnel. So that's always an advantage, I think, to any aerospace and defense company. I think they most um, they appreciate what a military veteran can bring to the table. Um, you know, um, but as far as actually just getting into Lockheed, I think that's just if you're qualified for the job, I don't think they have an advantage, I guess, or I don't know. It's hard. That's a hard question to answer directly. I can't speak for the company on that behalf, but um, it certainly doesn't hurt to have a military background when you go to work at a defense contractor. I guess that's the short of it.
Okay, okay. Um, and then, so what was the I guess the recruiting process like in terms of the interview, in terms of how you applied,
Okay.
things that Lockheed was essentially looking for? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. My particular first role with Lockheed, I actually found the role on LinkedIn, and it looked interesting, so I just applied. Um, and I just happened to be the right person, the right time, and got an interview. Um, I know for early career professionals, it can be frustrating because there's so many people applying. I've heard numbers of, for any given role, Lockheed Martin gets like 1,500 resumes a day. That's insane. So these recruiters are just they're doing their best to try to serve everybody and find the right person for the role and make those connections. Um, so the application process can certainly be difficult, and sometimes it doesn't always work out, and some people unfortunately do slip through the cracks. But just you got to keep trying. You got to be persistent. Um, I recommend going to ASME events, AIAA events, professional conferences, any kind of career fairs when you can get some actual face time with a recruiter or a manager. That'll help your application process immensely. Beyond that, the typical process is once you apply and if there's interest, you'll usually get a phone call, like a phone screening by an HR representative, very general, very, pretty straightforward. And then after that, they set up an interview. And that's when you'll actually typically meet with at least the hiring manager And every now and again, they can either have, a technical representative from the team you might be working on, or some other person like that to just kind of add to the questions. And the interview process is typically you just discuss back and forth. A lot of the times they're looking to just, they want to hear your background, what you took away from school or any previous experiences. And they'll also try to gauge you as a person. Like, is this guy or girl going to be interesting to work with? Are they going to be a team player, or are they kind of gonna just show up every day and not talk to anybody? Those kinds of things. So they're really reading you as a whole contributor to the team. They're typically you're not going to get like a 10-question test like you would in school or something and have to crank out a bunch of you know derivatives or anything like that. The technical questions are often very general in nature. And then after that, if they like you, a decision gets made and you get an offer and you move forward from there.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jose. So, in terms of, I guess, more insight, because I'm seeing here all the questions related to basically Lockheed Martin and what can they do to increase their chances to get a job there, or to stand out, if you will. So, given your experience, you work for different companies. Is there? Do you have any insight on what Lockheed Martin is specifically looking in a mechanical engineer? Anything that the audience here can do to stand out?
Yeah, definitely. Other than we all go to school and get an aerospace engineering degree or mechanical engineering degree of some sort. So obviously your educational background will be a point. Um, your experience, if you've done any internships, um, if you've published any papers as a either undergrad or graduate, relative to the type of work you want to go into. If you're a member of any organizations like ASME or AIAA or the various other mechanical engineering or aerospace and defense organizations, that always helps. That shows that you're active in your field, that you want to learn and know more than just what you learned in school. Definitely, any kind of experience you can pick up along the way, whether it's volunteer, intern, or paid professional experience, that's going to help you on top of what you did academically in school. There's no magic recipe. There's no, hey, you got to go do this one thing and you're a shoo-in at Lockheed. That's not quite how it works. It's a competitive process, just like applying to college or just like applying to any other large aerospace company. It's just, you do your best, you put your best foot forward and try to be the best that you can be for that particular role.
Great, thank you, Jose. What great part of your job? Question from Katie.
Can you repeat that one again? It broke up.
What is your favorite part of your job?
My favorite part of my job?
Yes, yes.
I guess just I like the idea that the products I make are, um, are going to protect our men and women in the armed forces. The majority of the products I work on are, national defense related. So it's very intriguing to me. I love being able to work with some of the best suppliers, and companies in the nation. As far as turbine engines, that means, General Electric, Rolls-Royce, Pratt and Whitney, all the big companies you always hear about, and some very innovative small ones as well. Lockheed Martin's really great at just having a broad spectrum of products. So we don't only make the F-35 and work with the big, huge contractors, but we make, small UAVs and other products that, go to non-traditional suppliers and small companies. And to me, that's just really fun, is just getting to meet all the different people that are passionate about these products and work in different disciplines and want to accomplish the same thing.
Great. Thank you, Jose. Now, the other side of that, I guess, question is, what are the challenges that you face the most with your current job?
Well, challenges are, there can be technical challenges where you have this problem that you need to solve, and there's just, it seems like there's too many constraints, and you just can't get there. Doing things cheaper, faster, better is what everybody wants, right? And that becomes difficult, especially because there's a high standard. We don't want to put out a poor product or a compromised product. It's always got to be the best product we can give the customer. So it's a give and take of trying to figure things out and how to do things better and faster and cheaper, but still deliver that quality product. So, from a technical standpoint, those are the challenges. Um, there's other challenges. Obviously, there's administrative stuff. There's management styles and organizational challenges and logistical challenges. It's on top of what I explained on my day to day. Basically, every one of those facets comes with its own set of challenges. So you're constantly juggling, obstacles and challenges and stuff. So, you just got to take it in stride and try to enjoy it all.
Great. Thank you, Jose. Great question from Katie here, who's wondering, why are you pursuing now a PhD?
Yes. So that's really, I get asked a lot, oh, are you doing it for the money, or is it gonna, are you gonna get a promotion? Not necessarily. Does a PhD or an advanced degree make you more competitive? Absolutely. It's always good to have more education. That never hurts. That's something nobody can take away from you. But for me, it's more of a personal goal. I really enjoyed my undergrad. I enjoyed my master's degree. Um, like everybody else, I think, when you finish one degree, you said, "Oh my God, I'm never going back to college. I'm so done." And then like a year or two later, I kind of think back, man, I think I should do my master's, and that's how that worked, right? And then with my PhD, it was kind of the same way where, I think I took like a 5 or 6 year pause, and I was, then I started getting kind of bored, and I was like, I should really go after it. And um, usually most big companies and even a lot of small companies are very supportive of education. So um, it's just been, again, a personal goal that I think it will help my career. No guarantees, but it just opens more doors. I love education, I love engineering, so it kind of made sense, and that's why I went after it.
Great, great. Thank you, Jose. Question from Adam. What do you know now that you wish you knew at the end of your college career?
Good question. I've certainly taken, I mentioned it early on when we were talking about like products and integration. Um, I definitely know now to appreciate everything about the job you're doing. So let's say you're a stress engineer, you shouldn't just, most people I think focus on being really good at one thing and say, wow, I was really good at FEA in school, so I'm going to be a stress analyst and I'm going to be the best stress analyst there can be. And sometimes you go into the industry, into work with those blinders on and just stick to that one thing, where there's so much else going on around you. And if you can learn all the other disciplines and learn how to communicate with those teams and learn the business development side and networking of your discipline or your job or your role, or what your company does. I mean, that's huge. That's really what propels you and makes you very valuable to that company, is, having a good network of people beyond just stress engineers, beyond just mechanical engineers, you know, getting in good with your customers, the government customers, or private customers or internal customers, whoever it is. So really, I guess the short answer to that is don't have a one track mind of, I'm a propulsion engineer and that's all I'm going to do is just work on engines or thrust reversers or whatever. Try to really just take on as much as you can, where you enjoy it and you're passionate about it, and be good at as many things as you can. That's one thing I think I've taken away.
Right. Thank you, Jose. Uh, Next question from Ashley. What do you think you would be doing if you didn't work for this company or in this field?
That's that's a really hard question. I can't imagine doing anything else, to be honest with you. Since day one, I pretty much knew I wanted to be around airplanes and kind of the military environment, but definitely aircraft and mechanical stuff. Um, if I wasn't a mechanical engineer, I really have no idea what I'd be doing. I wouldn't be like, I don't know. That's so far removed from my thought process. I think I just couldn't imagine doing anything else.
Okay. Um, Next question from Dar. Does your job requires a lot of theory and mathematics like calculus, linear algebra? Um, and do you use a computational tool like MATLAB, Maple, etc.?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so I do, am I solving integrals and differential equations every single day? No, not really. But having that knowledge certainly helps when you're using tools like MATLAB or, CFD or FEA or anything else. You wanna stay somewhat sharp on that stuff. A lot of guys do lose it over time. If you're not practicing math or anything else, you kind of lose your edge and forget some things. Um, so it's definitely not as intense as your coursework, when you're taking all your calculus courses and your differential equations and linear algebra, you're hot and heavy in that stuff every day. There's certainly some roles that require that more than others. For example, people that do a lot of modeling and simulation or GNC, guidance navigation control, they certainly are working with matrices a lot and doing a lot of that work. To the other question, MATLAB is a very common tool. I can't think of anybody on my team of any discipline that's not using MATLAB for something. So yeah, definitely. The other popular, script language right now is Python. A lot of use there. But honestly, a lot of tools and things we use are still Fortran based. So to kind of pile on to the other question and combine this one, the more programming languages you can be efficient in, or at least functional or knowledgeable in, that's going to be a benefit to you. There's so much good stuff that was developed in Fortran that's still around, and nobody wants to change it because it works great. So if you can program in C, MATLAB, Fortran, Python, anything else, that just makes you that much more valuable. But you will encounter it for sure.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jose.
Mhm.
Question here from Edwin, and I think you kind of answered part of, I would say, part of that question, but I guess as far as his background, so he's an automotive technician,
Mhm.
and he wanted to know what can he basically do, given his background as an automotive technician, if he wanted to pursue a career like yours?
Okay, so typically to break into engineering, you need to have an engineering degree of some sort. So that that assumes an undergraduate, 4-year degree um, in mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, aerospace, any one of the engineering disciplines. If you wanted to be, say, an automotive engineer, your time as an automotive technician, that would be huge. That would give you a very competitive edge. You'd be a lot more knowledgeable than the average person who's just going through a 4-year mechanical engineering degree and wants to go into automotive. So that's definitely a good advantage to have. All that time spent, being a mechanic, a technician, it's not going to waste. You're always learning. You're seeing how stuff comes together. When if you decide to go down in the engineering path and go to school, so many things are going to make sense a lot faster to you than it would to most people because you've seen it before. So that's certainly an advantage, I think.
Okay, great. Thank you. Uh, Question from Indra Neil. How steep or not is the learning curve in your field?
Um, it can be pretty steep, to be honest. You know, we find that somebody, and this is just a broad generalization. Obviously, there's a lot of variation, depends what you're doing exactly. But we say typically your first 5 years in industry, whether you're a master's, a graduate or undergrad, your first 5 years, you're really learning the whole time. And that doesn't mean you're just inept and sitting at a desk reading and learning. But you don't really know exactly what you want to do and how you want to do it until a few years into it. It's very rare to get somebody fresh out of school that in a year is just, oh, this is what I want to do. This is exactly how I'm going to do it, and they become an expert. It does take time. But if you're passionate about the work, it's just going to seem fun the whole time. If you're just witnessing tests and going through programs and seeing how stuff's built, designed, broken, rebuilt, it'll happen in a flash, and before you know it, you'll be an expert in your field. So don't let that discourage you about how steep the learning curve is or anything like that.
All right, thank you. Question from Ashley. What is the most valuable lesson you have learned in this job?
I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, is to just keep an open mind, try to be as versatile as possible, work with everybody. Everybody on your team, whether they're an administrative assistant or the chief engineer or the VP of the company, they're all people just like you. They've got things going on in their day to day, and you've got stuff going on, and they've got pressures and you've got pressures. The most important thing is to just always try to be as helpful as possible, to your own teammates and to other people's teams, and yeah, try to always remain flexible and versatile, and know a little bit about everything if you can. Obviously, you can specialize in one thing and be really good and passionate about one thing, but I find people really appreciate when you can speak their language in other disciplines and work together like that. So I guess that would be kind of it in a nutshell.
Great, thank you, Jose. Now, about Lockheed Martin. So just some people here in the audience are wondering, what is the cultural like? What is it like essentially to work there?
Yeah. So I think I gotta say Lockheed's probably one of the most impressive companies I've worked for as far as work-life balance, company culture. We have our main initiatives, and they really stick to them. Treating people right, doing what's right, respecting others, and building a quality product. Like, I may have not gotten those exactly right, and I hope I don't get in trouble for that. But that's kind of the idea, and they really do mean all that stuff. It's not just a poster on the wall. It's not just something they say to sound good. Everybody I work with is from all kinds of different backgrounds. I mean, we have here in the Fort Worth plant, it's like 15,000 people, tons of people, and they're from every background, every experience, every type of, just, I mean, it's the poster of diversity. And the culture is just very accepting. Everybody's on the same team. We're all trying to do the same thing. Very rarely are there any negative encounters. And the company is great about work-life balance. They really listen to their employees and try to do what's best for the business and the people. So I'm not getting paid to say any of this. It's true. I've worked for a couple different big companies, and not saying that any of the others were bad. But I gotta say Lockheed's on my top list. It's a great place to work, and the culture is just excellent.
Okay. I think I saw another question related to GE and how your experience there helped you with Lockheed.
I guess it helped me in the sense that it was just more professional experience. There was no direct tie-in, and they were quite a few years apart. So it didn't hurt. Anytime you work for another company, you're gaining experience, and a potential other company can see that as, hey, he probably learned something there that I don't that we don't teach here. So you know, moving around companies isn't necessarily a bad thing. We and especially in aerospace and defense, it's just so dynamic, especially now in this time where they're hiring like crazy and there's just so many projects going on. It's very common to see somebody that's worked at, Lockheed, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, Boeing, and so on. And you're like, man, those are all competitors. How does he just bounce around? The important part there is that everywhere you work, you should pick up, whatever experience you can, valuable lessons, and carry those forward with you. And that makes you a better engineer when you make mistakes or see somebody else make mistakes. It's a lesson learned, right? As long as you remember the lesson, that's going to make you better throughout time.
Okay, great, thank you. So I'm also seeing quite a few questions around some students who are looking for an internship at Lockheed. What can you tell them that would help them as far as increasing their chances to get an internship at Lockheed?
Okay. And I'm not too perfectly familiar with how that works, but I think we typically announce internships twice a year. Um, and the advice I've heard from recruiters is apply early and apply often. So as soon as you see that internships come up on the website, find the one that fits your desires or your path, and just apply right away and get your foot in the door. Again, it's a very competitive process. They receive tons and tons of applications, so it can be frustrating. I've tried to help students in the past, try to get into an internship, and there's just no guarantees. It's like a feeding frenzy. So the advice there is just apply as early as possible, get your foot in the door, and that'll hopefully give you the best chance of getting an interview. And at that point, it's on you to nail the job.
Great, thank you, Jose. Now, networking, I think you mentioned that also as something that also helped you throughout your career. I mean,
Yep.
obviously now with the current situation, I mean, networking is kind of difficult, or at least networking in person.
Yeah.
But can you tell us a little bit more about how that helped you? What advice you have there for successful networking?
Sure. So networking, it's valuable. Simple. The easiest thing you can do is create a LinkedIn profile that's thorough and well put together. Don't just slap a funny picture on there and list a couple things in the school you went to. If you really put time into your LinkedIn profile, I think you'll find that if you're looking for work, or you have something to offer that a company's interested in, oftentimes the recruiters or the headhunters or the contractors, they'll come looking for you. So that's a very valuable tool for networking. Um, More specifically to what I think you're asking, within your industry, whatever it is you do, whether it's automotive, aerospace, propulsion, structures, whatever. Um, Again, things like ASME, AIAA, the professional organizations are huge. If you can meet people from, different companies, different countries, different organizations that, may not be, do exactly what you do, but do something similar. I mean, that can open up doors. The more people you meet and engage with, the better. There's no such thing as having too many contacts in industry. You never know. I mean, that a project can dry up, funding can get taken away, or a political or market aspect can make the funding go away, and now your company can't afford to keep you on, so you get laid off or something like that. I mean, you hear it all the time in the news. Um, Oftentimes, if you have a contact somewhere, you can reach out and say, hey, things are drying up over here at company X. Are you guys looking for anybody that does what I do? If it's, stress or CFD or whatever. Oh yeah, we just got this big contract. We're looking for people. That puts you to the front of the line. You don't even have to worry about applying, things like that. If you've got great networking, you can solve a lot of problems that way really quick. So that would be my advice: is make as many friends as you can in any and every field. Um, any organization, any company, the more the merrier. It certainly won't hurt.
Well, thank you, Jose. Question from Christopher. What ways do you think you could still improve in your career?
That's a good question. Always keep learning. There's never a point where you should plateau and just say, okay, this is it. I'm not going to learn anymore. I'm not going to do anything different. I'm just going to coast. Does that happen? Yeah, probably. But as long as you remain agile and keep wanting to learn more, and just take it to the next level every time. So whether that means getting an advanced degree or signing up for certain training courses every year, or learning a new skill, or learning a new programming language, whatever it is, I promise you, even 20, 30 years down the road, as long as you keep trying to do something better or take on more responsibility, you're going to be that top guy. You're going to be more valuable. You're going to be you know uh people will be looking for you if you keep doing that. So that's my advice.
Right, thank you. Now I saw several questions. I'm not quite sure if you can help there, but some students, I believe they're still students, they're wondering if I guess the university you went to made helped you. I guess does it matter which university you graduated from to land a
Yeah.
job at Lockheed Martin?
Me personally, no. I didn't go to any big name university. I didn't go to, Harvard or Stanford or MIT or Caltech, and I'm not trying to isolate. We all know who the big name schools are. That does give an edge. People look for those names, and they know they have very reputable programs. But that shouldn't stop you. That's not a boundary. If you perform well, if you have a bunch of good experience on your resume, and have a respectable GPA, you're just as qualified. It's not, oh, well, this guy went to Stanford and never worked before, and this guy went to a small state school, but he's got 5 internships and published 3 papers. It's a balance. It's not there's not one single magic recipe that's gonna, like, oh, go to MIT and you're guaranteed a job. Not necessarily. So don't let that discourage you. If you attended a small school or a not so popular school, I'll say something like that. um, you know uh, that's not a hard stop. There's definitely, I think, good companies look at you as a person and how qualified you are, and going to a more prestigious school is icing on the cake, if you have that opportunity. But if not, no big deal.
Great. Thank you, Jose. Question from John. What special training have you received during your jobs?
As far as special training, I mean, the companies usually do pretty good about providing training all across the board. So whether it's software tools or design tools, things like that, there's always that available. um, as far as specific special training, I think it's really just your experience. So going through a program from start to finish, the proposal phase all the way through award capture, and then starting the design work and going through preliminary design review, and so on and so forth. That's your training, is just on the job. They'll provide training for, like I said, software tools, and how to use MATLAB or how to use CATIA or this, that, and the other. That's always available to anybody pretty much in the company. But I think the real, I think what you're looking for, the specialty training, is just really doing your job. And most companies, Lockheed Martin's one of them that's good about this, is they believe in like mentorships. So um, they'll typically pair you up with somebody more experienced, and you learn from that person, and you can change mentors, and you can learn from different people. It doesn't have to be official. You can just um, pick up knowledge everywhere, and that's what's, best to do and to really move yourself forward.
Okay, great. Uh, thank you, Jose. Another question here from Shah. What things or skills do you think you should have before essentially engineering job? Is there like anything specific, a minimum that would be required? You think, as far as certain software, certain skills?
Yeah.
To
Um,
yeah.
so that's going to vary greatly, right? So I don't want to isolate to one or two skills or certain softwares. Um, if you're interested in going down a certain career path, say I'll use my job for example, a propulsion engineer. So you want to work on turbine engines, start looking at some of these companies and look at their open requisitions, right? And see what a entry level engineer, see what kind of requirements they have. You have to meet at least the minimum requirements, or else they're probably not going to pick you up. So if the minimum requirements are MATLAB, MPSS, gas turb, or something like that, CFD, then that gives you a good gauge to what you should have as a minimum tool set or skill set, right? And then go a step further beyond that and look at what a junior level and then a senior level position in that field is, whether it's propulsion, stress, aerodynamics, whatever, and look at those minimum requirements. That way you know what your trajectory is, right? So if it takes, software X, Y, and Z knowledge to get an entry level, what does it take to move up to the next level after a year or two? And that's kind of the best way to figure out what skill sets you should have. Because it can just vary so much, whether, even within turbine engines, if you work at a steam, a steam turbine power plant versus a, aircraft turbine company versus, oil field power generation. I mean, it's close, but there are differences. So try to narrow down, where you want to work, what you want to do, and then look at those minimum requirements and try to meet and exceed those, obviously.
Right. Thank you, Jose.
Mhm.
So we have another, I think, 5 minutes before the top of the hour. So we'll take just maybe another 2 or 3 questions, and then we'll wrap this up.
Okay.
I think the other good question that I've seen, I think, being asked by several, in terms of. So you said you've been with Lockheed for years. Is there like any specific project that you would want to highlight, that you would want to share with the team here? I mean, obviously, nothing that's um, you know um, and something that you can share with the folks here.
Yeah, I'll keep it general just to not get myself any hot water or anything.
Hmm.
I definitely, the early part of my career, I definitely spent more time working on aircraft like, fighter jets and, um, um, you know, uh, commercial airliners and business jets. And I really enjoyed transitioning over to like the unmanned vehicles. I wasn't sure what that would be like. I'd worked on predators very early in my career and thought they were kind of neat. But when I really got into, where I'm at now, where that's mostly what I work on is unmanned type vehicles and applications. That's just been really fun. Just the people, the work, the way it all works, how fast it happens. Um, that's probably been, my favorite part of my career, I guess. And yeah, I wouldn't go as far as naming one particular product, but definitely um, the unmanned system side of things has been interesting. I hope to one day move into the really high speed, all the rage with the hypersonic products going on. That's kind of a goal of mine, is to, maybe when I wrap up my PhD, move into that type of work. And I think that'd be a blast. So my answer might change in a few years.
Great. Thank you, Jose. Last question from Dar. Have you made mistakes as an engineer, and how did you fix them?
So everybody makes mistakes. There's no, no matter how much you analyze something or think you're on the right track, there's just times where the odds are against you or certain conditions stack up. Um, when you make a mistake, the best thing you can do is own up to it. Don't ever try to cover it up. Don't ever try to backpedal and change things. That's why we work in teams. It's very few. I gotta believe there's probably no or very few engineering firms that are a one-man team. Um, we have people that are above us and we have people that are below us, and we all have to work together. So if a mistake happens, whether you're a junior person or a senior person, your teammates are there to hold you up and help you fix the mistake. So it does happen. The best thing to do from that is learn from it and don't repeat it, right? Or try to be cautious and not let it happen again. But definitely, if a mistake occurs, own up to it, learn from it, move on from it, and try to prevent it and teach others how to not commit that same mistake.
Great. Thank you, Jose. So I think now, well, actually, let me wrap this up. I want to ask you one more question,
Sure.
not from the audience, just to wrap things up. Is there any last, I would say, advice you want to provide to the audience here?
Um, Nothing in particular. I mean, it's engineering and aerospace and mechanical engineering can be such a fun and broad world. So I mean, just I'd say go after whatever it is you want to do. Whatever excites you, whatever makes you wake up every morning and say, "Man, I really want to go do this." That's what I would recommend you go after, and don't settle for anything less. If you enjoy and care about the products you're designing or the hardware you're making or the processes and all that stuff, I mean, you can really engulf yourself in your work and you know, have fun, get well compensated, and have a very successful career. If you're doing something you don't like or don't care about, that's going to reflect no matter how good you are. And then you're just going to get tired of it. So definitely make sure you're working in a field that you care about and products that you appreciate and really want to be working on.
Great. Thank you so much, Jose. So I'm going to wrap things up now. The So thank you all for attending. I just wanted to um, let you know that in a few minutes, you should get um, a survey that would really appreciate if you could fill it out. Otherwise, um, there will also be, like I mentioned at the beginning, we have at least another 2 webinars similar to this one with 2 different companies at least that will have in May and another one sometime in the summer. Just check out the ASME's website and you will find there the schedule. Uh, the recording for today's webinar will be posted on the ASME's website, so you can rewatch it there. And again, I apologize if we didn't answer all of your questions. There were a lot. So thank you again for your participation. I really hope that you enjoyed this webinar. And again, survey will be sent out, I think, in the next minute or two. So please take the time to provide us your feedback. Otherwise, until the next event, please stay safe and thank you. I'll see you on our next event. Bye-bye, everybody.